Welcome back to the channel, Dar's Customs. Appreciate y'all for your patience. I know I don't post as often as I like or I say I should, but we're going to change that and starting with today. So, I have decided that I'm going to start doing videos Sunday afternoon, evening when I get back from doing my volunteer work and going to church, and I'm going to tell you about my day, my week or so. And I also think for this video, though, what I want to start with is my testimonial. So, I think going forward, we need to have a little bit more of an understanding about my past. So, I spent much of my life agnostic. I believed in a higher power, but I couldn't tell you what. And for the longest time, my stance was it is not my place to know what is the higher power, who our creator is. When I was younger, I was baptized Catholic. I don't recall much of it. I don't remember much of it. And, that was a period in my life that I don't remember any of it. And I know at the period of time, I was not really thrilled with going to church. It wasn't exciting to me. I didn't understand it. I'm going to be drinking water. I may cut and edit the stuff in and out, depending on how I like this going. So, anyways, I was very agnostic for most of my life, and a good portion of my adult life, I was very, very atheist, almost bitterly atheist. And well, I never had any personal grudges or hate. I never hated anybody. But for the longest time, I didn't understand religion, and I certainly didn't understand Christianity. So I was wayward and lost for a long time. And I was in the army. I did 4 years. I spent a year of it in Afghanistan. And while over there, I had an IED go off next to my truck. I survived, 10 fingers, 10 toes, walked. I drove away. I was good. But the doctors that I've talked to say the concussion from the blast definitely messed me up. And so over the past handful of years, my back has just become a mess. And I have gone from being able to run around and just do about anything any normal person in their late 20s, early 30s could do, to I'm stuck with a cane and a walker and an electric scooter. And, after now I'm to the point about 5 minutes in on my feet. And I'm getting the tingles in my thighs. And back a few years after I got out of the army, it started to catch up to me. It is when it began. And I felt that, I didn't do anything wrong. I was a good soldier. I've always been what I've always felt was a decent person. I've had my ego, of course. Anybody young in their 20s, of course they've felt that they knew better than everybody and whatnot. But as my back issues increased and my life struggles got harder, man, did I get bitter. I got real bitter. I got real dark. There were some periods of time that I really wanted to just, put the keys on the table and check out early. But that is not the path that I'm on. I struggled and I needed to get my finances in order. And it took some years and some struggling. And I was able to get my compensation sorted out from, the VA disability and everything. And I had to spend some time in Florida because when I was in Kentucky, the VA wasn't really helping me. And so in Florida, I felt that I was in this final test, because I was in the final stages of getting my disability rating adjusted and improved. I was in it was a very rough living situation. I had moved in with a friend that turned out not to be as good a friend as I had envisioned and had thought for, God, we knew each other for like 15, 16 years or something like that. But either way, things didn't end on positive notes, and I left Florida back to Kentucky by the skin of my teeth, basically. And it's almost as if dominoes just started falling into place. You know, my financial situation started to fall into repair, and I, man, I was in a really bad depressed spot. But then my life started to turn around. And things that I had been working towards and trying to put into motion had been falling into place. And it really changed my perspective on things. I remember a few years ago, I think it was Colorado. I can't remember offhand off the top of my head. But and I know we all know about it, it was the bakery that did not want to bake a gay cake. And, you know, this was in prime of my atheist years. And they said they would bake this couple a cake. They just wouldn't do a specific message because it conflicted with their personal faith. And this story blew up. Now, as an atheist in this period of my life, I was very open-minded and, you know, let people love who they love. And, you know, I don't care what you do in your own bedroom. But if they weren't happy with the fact that this bakery wouldn't bake the specific cake that they wanted, the correct thing should have been just to go down the street to a different bakery or to Walmart or Rayleigh or, you know, grocery store or wherever. Go somewhere else. Instead, these people chose to make a big scene about it. And it was a big story and it was a big deal. And I, as an atheist at the time, looked at the situation. I go, how can you make me, the atheist, defend the Christians? Like, I think these people are already insane. And I usually don't have anything positive to say, yet you're making me defend them. And I think that may have been the crack in the armor, so to speak. Like I said, I didn't have anything personal against people with faith or religion or anything. I was misguided in my belief that religion was a man-made construct and it was used to corrupt dumb people and control them. And to a degree, you can say, yes, there's a lot of reasoning you can put in behind that. However, I was young and ignorant. Fast forwarding to now, my mindset had changed from being this bitter atheist to, you know, I'm a lot more positive, a lot less depressed. Hi, Nebula. You will notice I have a cat tower behind me now, and so you will see cats going up and down it. So, anyways, I started to shift my perspective because I felt I had passed that final test, and that allowed things to go in my favor. And then I started allowing myself to be a little bit more open-minded and spiritual. And I watched this video. It was a fascinating video on YouTube. It was basically a hypothetical, what happens in the future? What's next? And it was a time lapse going exponentially further in time in the future. You know, our sun is going to expand into a red giant and engulf the inner solar system. The galaxies are going to crash into each other, and you know, the stars and everything is going to continue expanding outward trillions and trillions of years until there's, there's nothing in between, and all the stars will eventually burn out, and then nothing left but black holes all swirling down. It's this 20-minute video, and it tells you about all this stuff going trillions and trillions and trillions of, light years into the future. Again, it's all hypothetical stuff, but it got me thinking. We're here for what? Maybe 60, 70 years average, just, for ballpark figures. And then after that, nothing. 60, 70 years isn't even a blink in geological time, let alone, astrological time. Empires rise and fall every 250 years. We in our personal life experience on this planet is not even a blink of a millisecond in a fraction of anything when you look at the grand scheme of time and over the course of history and everything. And it really got me thinking, there has to be more than just what we have here. This can't be it. And because of growing up in America, I have always had a very fundamental basis of Christian values. We all know God. We all know who he is. We all know what the Ten Commandments are. Nobody is shocked when they learn about Christianity or Catholicism or anything, because it's been so much in our country. That's not saying it is the only religion in this country, but it is definitely it's a large percentage of this country. It's very much woven into the fabric of this country. And so for me to shift into thinking, well, maybe the Christians, how do I put this? How did I as an atheist become a Christian? Ever since 2020, now this is where things are going to start getting real decisive. Ever since 2020, I have watched, well, technically 2016. I have always been an unpolitical person. I hated politics. And after 2016 and then 2020, and then, 2020 is when I was beginning my life was going to turn around, and I was going to have my big comeback, and my finances were turned around. I had just got back from Florida. Everything was going to go good. But then, well, we all know what happened in 2020. And we have known what's been happening since. And in the chaos that we have seen spread across our country, not just our country, but our globe, really got me thinking. Now, anybody who knows me personally, my Alex Jones jar was right, is full of change, because all of my conspiracy theories have come true. And it's wild to me to see what is going on in this country alone. It is not the country that I was born into. The country I grew up in is long gone. I don't know what happened to it. And I look around everything. And if I can entertain some of these crazy, crazy conspiracy theories that I've heard, there's a lot of evil going on in this world. A lot of evil. And if I can even entertain these crazy, crazy ideas, I'm not saying they're real. I'm not saying that I believe them all. I'm just saying I entertain them. If I can believe these things exist, why can't I not find a positive light of what's going on in this world? If there's a negative, and there's a lot of it, and I can see it, and I can go, oh, wow, this is insane. Why is there so much of this craziness going on? Well, where do I find the antithesis of this? And everything that I have been seeing, which I thought was just insane, demonic craziness, as I get deeper into reading the Bible and learning about the Proverbs and the different passages, and I have definitely become very interested in the book of Revelations, and a lot of the content that I see and that I research, and I look at what's going on in the world today, and I go, I'm not saying we're in the end times. However, there's a lot that I can go, oh wow, that matches up. And so I was looking for some place, before I really figured out any of this, I was looking for some place to go. I've been to church before, and I've never been able to get into it. It just never worked for me. But then I walked into this one. It was small. It was unassuming. You knew it was a church when you pulled up. I mean, it looked like a church. It was a very nice, little, humble church. And that's what drew me in first. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't grandiose, it wasn't glistening with bells and towers, and it was just a church. And the thing that I have come to, let's see here, over the years of my life, I've never understood the different denominations of church. You got Catholics, Protestants, and Methodists, and Mormons, and Westboro Baptist. You got all these different branches, and it never made sense to me. And this church that I went into back in Kentucky, it was a non-denominational, which meant they focused on Jesus Christ, the Bible, and the studies and the teachings of his church and his followers. And I liked that, because when you take everything decisive aside, you have a man that walked this earth, did good things, and his life ended in a very, very terrible way. There is nothing good about being crucified. You take everything superstitious, and I'm sorry. You take away everything supernatural, and you strip it down to just the man that walked around this earth, just preaching good, preaching love. And that spoke to me in this crazy, corrupt, dangerous, terrifying world that we're watching unfold in front of our eyes. So I would go to this church, and I just sat in the back row, and I would just sit there and listen. I didn't take communion. I didn't get involved too much, but I just sat in the back row, and I told them, I'm just here for the community. If you've ever seen the show Firefly or the movie Serenity that followed it, you could picture me a lot like Malcolm Reynolds. I'm not going to be a part of your flock. That was my mindset. I'll listen to you talk. I don't mind it, but I'm not following in with your fold. And I was there for a couple of months, and then I flew back to Nevada for an event that... Sorry, my cats. I flew back for the Great Western Steam Up, and it was fantastic. It was an amazing event. It was 4th of July weekend. I was home, and I spent some time around some family, and I was able to enjoy the museum, and I realized it was time for me to come home. I'd been gone from Nevada since 2009. It was 2002 at this point. And the last time I was here was pretty rough. And so it'd been about 10 years since I'd been back in Nevada. And then I said, it's time to come home. And so I moved back home. And there were so many potential situations that could have gone wrong, that could have prevented me from traversing from Kentucky across our great nation back to Nevada. Something could have gone wrong. I could have gotten a flat tire. The trailer could have broke. Anything could have happened. But I made it back to Nevada. And then I got set up with volunteering at the Nevada State Railroad Museum. And, things just started falling into place more and more and more. And I'd been looking for a new church. And I found one here that I liked. And I started going to it a couple of times, and I enjoyed what I was listening to. And, I'd been watching more videos on YouTube and just listening to more sermons and finding pastors that I liked. And I decided about a month or so ago, maybe a little more, I can't remember exactly what day it was, I decided I was going to get baptized. Because I see what's going on in the world, and with the evidence presented to me at this point in my life, I look at what's going on, and I do believe that we are certainly facing... My cat Chiana, she's just being goofy and playing. I do certainly believe in my heart that we are facing down the end times. I'll be honest with you. I'll say it right here to the camera and be very blunt about it. The more I study, the more I look into the Bible, the more I research, and the more I build my faith, the more I realize that this is where I'm supposed to be in life, and this is where God wants me to be in life. And so, with all this understanding and this background, here we are at this point. I'm in a very, very blessed situation. I have a lot of free time on my hands to contemplate my relationship with Christ. And the more that I contemplate, the more that I try to figure out my path that God wants me to follow, the more I've been feeling that I need to get my voice heard. We are in some serious times, I believe. I mean, you could take all the religious stuff, strip it aside, and you got to look at what's going on in Ukraine, and what's going on with China, what's going on with the border, what's going on just within our country. You look at everything that's going on in the world today, and I don't know how you can think everything's fine and normal. I don't understand. And I'm done trying to. I see the situation that we're in, and I have spent a long time of my life not listening to God. But with the way things in my life have been going now, I have come to learn the way I hear God. And this is for me. I'm sure it's different for everybody, because I know for years I thought people were insane when they said they talk with God. But for me, the way I understand, the way God speaks to me, is when you watch a flag flying in the wind. You know the wind is there. The wind is telling you what direction that flag is going in, because it's making the flag, flap in the breeze. To me, that's God's way of speaking. His voice is there. And when you're trying to listen for this literal booming voice of a man in the sky with a beard, I used to make that a mockery of an idea of what it's supposed to be, but that's not what I believe anymore. God has me in a spot for a purpose, and I have opened myself to figure out what that purpose is. And I'm starting to believe that it is to spread the gospel. Now, I don't have the gospel memorized. I'm still learning all this. I am very much a sponge, just taking in information. I would not presume to try to quote scripture until I've got it either memorized or in front of me, which I don't. My videos going forward right now are just hit record, maybe do a little editing to kind of clean it up a little bit. Other than that, you're just getting me straight talking to the camera. Because I've been sitting on my hands for months now, trying to figure out how to make these videos and what works and what not. And the one thing I keep telling a buddy of mine, you just got to do it. Quit mucking around, moping around, trying to figure out what's going to make things better. You're just going to have to get up and do it. So here it is. This is my testimonial. And going forward, I'm going to start trying to do every Sunday, an afternoon. I'm going to sit down. After I get home, I'll feed the cats, get myself a little settled in. Then we're going to sit down. We're going to have a nice conversation. So now that I've got my testimonial out of the way, let's go forward. Because let's see here. We're only 25 minutes in. We can make this go a little bit further. So going forward, you're going to get more videos of this. Me talking about my relationship with God, with Christ. Oh, hey, there's Chiana. I'm still learning the camera and my hands, and so you're going to see my eyes not looking at the camera because I'm looking at the monitor and adjusting my bandana because I don't like going up. Anyways, so going forward, we're going to talk about Christ on this channel a lot more. Only if me, a handful of years, could have even heard that word come out of that phrase, sentence come out of my mouth. Wow. And see, that right there is why I tell people when I start getting on about, I try not to be preachy. I really don't. I don't like being preachy because I know what it's like to be preached to and not want to hear it. However, when me, the atheist, the agnostic atheist, who, I've been from one side of this galaxy to the other. Ain't nothing to make me believe in some fancy, hokey religion. Whatever Han said. Han Solo. Anyways, I went from that to, I get up Sunday morning, and there's a couple of pastors that I like to watch on YouTube, and I will watch that on my way down to church for Bible study before I do the late morning service, before I go down to the museum to do my, I pray every day now. I try to pray every meal. I try to pray every time I get up when I remember to. I try to pray right before I go to sleep. I have shifted so hard off of an axis that I didn't realize that I was on to this whole other direction that it blows my mind just thinking about it. But if I can come to these terms and I can see what's going on, that has to, in my eyes, be like a flippin' neon sign for people. We are in a fight between good and evil on this planet right now. And if you think I sound crazy, go for it. I think I sound crazy too. 10 years ago, if I saw me saying these things, I would have said, "You're crazy. What are you thinking?" But here we are, here and now, and I don't think I'm crazy anymore. In fact, I feel less crazy than I have in a very long time. I want nothing but good for good people. I want nothing but happiness and love and positivity, because if I can go from a very dark place and come out on the other side to where I'm at now, I want to help pull people with me. And at first, a lot of it was inspired. There's a scene in the Netflix Punisher where the Punisher's, it's the second episode, I think, and he's standing in the back of this veteran support group. And the guy who's running it, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm not going to do the whole thing, but basically he's talking, there's a poem or a parable basically of, you got this private, this soldier. He's stuck in this hole, and he doesn't know how to get out. It's depression. It's the negative thoughts that we as soldiers and veterans, it's this pit that we fall into. And he's in this pit, and he sees an NCO walk by, and he says, help me out. And the NCO says, get your shovel and dig yourself out. You know, do what you were trained to do. So he keeps digging. And then, I can't remember what it was. I think it's another senior NCO comes through, or an officer. And then here comes a therapist. And all these people parade by saying, hey, just do this. And then they walk off. Now, as a veteran, that dealt with the VA and the things that I had to deal with, that struck such a chord with me. I'm not going to lie, I was a little onion-eyed by the end of this scene. And so anyways, the soldier's digging and can't get anywhere. And finally, another soldier jumps down into the pit with him. And the first soldier panics. He goes, what are you doing? You're stuck now. You're stuck down here with me. Now, how are you going to get... Now we're both stuck. And he, calm down. It's okay. Buddy, I got you. I've been here. I have been in this hole where you're at. Take my hand. And I can get you out of here. And, man, it was so powerful. I'm getting teary-eyed, worked up. And so I am in a very blessed situation in my life where I can produce a video, put it on YouTube, and tell other people, look, depression is real, but we can get out of it together. And I believe, you know, this channel started as it's going to just be my model trains and hobbies and stuff. And now it's going to be that's as well, but I want to also be a human on this channel and speak to you, man to viewer, and say, look, hard times are here. We're all going to go through them, but you don't have to go through them alone. There is help. I may not be able to help you, but I can at least tell you that there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't care if you're whatever. If you're struggling through hard times, first of all, never give up. Never give up. We can all want to give up. That's easy. That's the easy part. It's pushing through it and getting to the other side that counts. You know, I've always lived my life by mottos, and we'll finish with this. If it ain't hard, it ain't worth doing. Oh, there we go. If it's easy, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can do it. If anybody can do it, what's the point of getting a pat on your shoulder for it? Anybody can do it. There's nothing. There's nothing to be thought of about it. It's not special. There's if anybody can do it, there's no effort to be done. But if it's hard, you have to put effort in. And if you have to put effort in, that means you're putting yourself into something. First of all, you're building something, you're working something. If it's difficult, it's because you're up against resistance. And resistance is what makes you stronger. And that strength sets you apart from the people who can't do it. You know, you have your cans and your can'ts, your do's and your do nots. If you can take on a challenge and it's a struggle, but you can overcome it, it's worth doing. It's worth putting yourself through a struggle because of how much you can gain just from your character, your soul, your person. It doesn't matter if you're working out. It doesn't matter if you're putting in hours for work so you can build up your future and so you can go buy a house or buy a new car or, you know, take that, I don't know, vacation. You have to work for things. And if anybody can do it, it ain't really going to be that special. But if it's something that you have to work for, it's exceptional. If it ain't hard, it ain't worth doing. So, I'm going to end here. This is a pretty good length video, I think. Hopefully it'll motivate some people. Yeah, these are my final thoughts, I guess. And I will put up another video next week, hopefully. We're going to go forward. Maybe I'll talk about what I did in church or what I did at the museum. I don't know. This one's gone on long enough because it's my testimonial. Me, how did I come to Christ? And, well, here I am. So I got baptized and talking about Christ on my channel. Never thought I'd be at this point. See you next week.